Alright, so trade breakdown for January 21st. Look at the economic calendar. Tuesday, we have no high impact news for the US dollar. So the best thing to do is going to be wait for 9:30 open in order to take a trade. If we look at this top down here for the DXY, see that overnight had a big gap down and we rejected off of the daily fair value gap. And for this, I'm looking for, at the time at 9 o'clock, it was up here. So we were looking for it to come down and maybe take out this low and potentially these lows here into the other daily fair value gap. So if we're going to be bearish on the dollar, we're going to be bullish on the indices. If we look at, see here, the daily chart of the Nasdaq and the S&P. So we dug up, there was SMT here at the lows with ES and NQ, and we inverted this fair value gap, sending us higher, and we retested this fair value gap, and we ended up into this one. With the dollar going down and indices going up, I fully expect us for at least the high time frame draw on liquidity to be these highs, or at least to fill this gap, this high, and possibly even this high. So high time frame draw on liquidity is going to be bullish for now. Now if we look at the Nasdaq on this chart, in terms of TAPTA, at the time that I took the trade, we were right here. All right. So if we look at the high of this Q3 distribution candle and we bring it out into time here, and the high of yesterday's Q3 distribution candle, and we bring it out into time here, we see that we're tapping into it. So this might cause some resistance for the time being. If we do, I fully expect us to have some support here in the Q3 H1 fair value gap, either the top or maybe even the midpoint or this wick right here. Now if we go into the meat of it here on NQ, just take off the replay. So at the time, say right here, pre-market, we noticed here there was SMT with the ES. As you can see in the notes, you'll be able to see it. So there's SMT with the ES here. We have buy side liquidity here because we have relative equal highs, and we have sell side liquidity here, relative equal lows. Now since we're bearish on the dollar and bullish on the indices, I would expect us to go higher through into the end of the day, but in the beginning of the day, as we know, we have to go down to manipulate in order to go up. So these lows really do look suspect. So I'm going to look for, if the market permits, a short into these lows, and if I'm around, probably I'll reverse into a long. That's exactly what ended up happening. So if I remove bar replay here and we go into the 5-minute time frame, we ended up with, this is the SMT, right? And we also had, this was yesterday's 5-minute Q3 candle high. If we bring it out into time, we hit that perfectly with the SMT, inverted this fair value gap, and used it as resistance to send us lower. Now at the 9:30 open, which is right here, we end up, where I took the short was, we came back up, hit this breaker block, right? So I shorted within the breaker block. There was a bearish order block here, and the stop loss was right above this inverse fair value gap. Because of the SMT and because of the inverse fair value gap, the breaker block, and this bearish order block, that's more than 3 PD arrays. So price really shouldn't come back up here unless I'm wrong. and there was a partial take in at this low. And instead of waiting for it to actually reach the sell side liquidity, I actually exited right here at these lows right there. And the reason for this was because there wasn't any high impact news. So I wanted to manage my expectations in terms of how far we can go. And at the same time, if we do look here, at that time that that low was created, right here, we traded into the new week opening gap. So with those confluences, I decided to close the trade and maybe wait for later if I was around to take a long back up into the buy side liquidity. I wasn't able to, but if we see after we took sell side right here, we kind of consolidated here. There was time distortion, and when we finally left the consolidation, we broke this high here, which in this case this would be a breaker block, and we retested this fair value gap perfectly. Bodies staying above the midpoint, indicating strength, and we made it all the way to the buy side liquidity. So this would have been a good long trade as well. Played out perfectly as I thought it would.